Bastard. Tyler dropped this thing like a teenage tantrum wrapped in a digital Molotov. It came out on December 25th, 2009, but nobody got it on CD or vinyl at first. Nope, it was just hanging out online, floating around Tumblr and Zshare like a burnt offering to the internet. No major label, no rollout, just Tyler and his cracked copy of FL Studio. Seriously, the man couldn't even save his beats. He had to export them right after making them or lose them forever. That's some chaotic dedication right there. He was recording most of this in a place he called the Trap, which honestly sounds like a haunted dorm room, but it was his creative lab thanks to Odd Future crew members Sid and Travis. The whole project screams DIY, not just in sound, but in structure. Every single track was produced by Tyler himself. No help, no co-producers, just a kid making grimy beats and growling into a mic like the world owed him something. And it kinda did. Dr. TC, the weird, fake therapist character voiced by Tyler, guides the listener through the mess. It's supposed to be the first of 3 therapy sessions, which continues in the next 2 albums, but here it's more like Dr. TC is trying to survive whatever Tyler throws at him. This was Tyler creating a whole twisted world before he even had a proper studio. And it shows lo-fi beats, eerie synths, and an undercurrent of teen angst that'd make your middle school journal feel weak. The track list has 15 songs, and Tyler drags in a bunch of Odd Future members like Haji Beats, Earl Sweatshirt, Domo Genesis, Casey Veggies, Mike G, Jasper Dolphin, and Taco. Yeah, they were all in on it. There's even this whole saga with Brandon Deshay getting kicked off a track and replaced by Mike G, then getting his verse restored later like a deleted scene nobody really asked for. Drama in the middle of a debut? Classic. Now let's talk lyrical chaos. The numbers are wild. Almost 30% of the lyrics deal in violence or shock value, 15% dig into introspection, and 5% touch on mental health. The rest? A mix of odd stories, and the occasional brag, though the bragging sits under 2%, which is practically unheard of in rap. Tyler wasn't flexing Rolexes or private jets. He was too busy yelling at rap blogs for ignoring him. Yeah, that's real. He opened the album by torching 2 dope boys and Nah Right, who later responded saying they had no clue who he was until he started cursing them out. Now that's a way to get attention. Tyler's influences during this time were all over the place. Eminem's Relapse, James Pants, Clips, Grizzly Bear, Night Jewel. He was pulling from rap, indie, electronic, all mashed together into this melting pot of rage and weirdness. And it worked. Critics noticed. Pitchfork called it a minor masterpiece of shock art and ranked it number 32 on their list for that year. Rolling Stone stuck it at 118 in their 200 greatest rap albums of all time. Not bad for something released to, as Tyler put it, 46 people at first. There's no way around it. Bastard was controversial. The lyrics were brutal, with references to rape, murder, and slurs that got people genuinely angry. Critics slammed it. Rap reviews said the beats were good, but couldn't ignore the offensive stuff. Tyler responded by saying it was all satire and made to offend old white guys. Whether or not you buy that, the controversy followed him. It even got him banned from the United Kingdom for a few years. The government claimed the lyrics were promoting violence and rape, which led to a whole international mess. Tyler said it was racially motivated and felt like he was being treated like a terrorist. The ban finally got lifted in May of 2019. Even with all that backlash, this album carved out its place. It helped Tyler build a serious cult following and put Odd Future on the map. They didn't act like anyone else, and they didn't sound like anyone else either. People compared them to Wu-Tang Clan, but louder and with more skateboards. Bastard also helped push the rise of internet-driven rap. No radio, no label, just raw energy uploaded straight to the web. There's something poetic about Tyler making this whole thing at 17. He was still a teenager when it dropped. A teenager yelling into the void with a pitch-shifted therapist guiding the way. He created a whole trilogy from this mess, and whether people liked it or not, they had to take notice. Even now, fans beg for a proper physical release, and Tyler keeps teasing it. There's a bootleg vinyl version floating around, and apparently it doesn't sound awful, which is honestly kind of impressive. Bastard was Tyler, proving he had something to say, even if what he said made people furious. And I don't blame them. Some of those lyrics are flat out brutal, but ignoring Bastard means missing the starting point for one of the strangest evolutions in modern hip-hop. Tyler went from this to Grammy wins. That leap is no joke. So yeah, Bastard might not be easy to listen to, but it changed things. Whether people liked it or not, they remembered it. Goblin, Tyler's first major label album, came out swinging on May 10th, 2011. And if Bastard was the wild underground rant, Goblin was the louder, sharper follow-up that refused to dial anything back. The therapy sessions kept going, with Dr. TC once again acting like the calm voice in Tyler's crumbling mind. This thing ran over 73 minutes long in the standard edition and stretched past 81 with the deluxe, which means it was long enough to ruin your mood and your lunch break. Right off the bat, the production was mostly Tyler again. He stuck with FL Studio and GarageBand like he was trying to win loyalty points from Cracked Soft. The narrative didn't just continue, it got louder and messier. Tyler dove even deeper into his alter egos. Troncat and Wolf Haley showed up to cause problems, hurl slurs, and challenge every societal boundary they could find. Some people thought it was clever, others thought it was dangerous. Tyler kept saying it was satire. Shock lyrics made up over 1/3 of the album. That's not an exaggeration, it was 36.6% of the lyrics, which is the highest in Tyler's whole discography. He even pushed past Bastard's twisted bars with lines that made people visibly uncomfortable. Troncat had lyrics that made you want to turn your speakers down, even if you were alone. People weren't just mad, they were concerned. But then there's the other 15% of the lyrics that dive into real emotional territory, and it hits differently. Tracks like Nightmare and Her Show, that under all the yelling and violence, there's a confused kid spiraling under the weight of new fame and loneliness. Yonkers blew up everywhere. That video of him eating a cockroach and hanging himself turned into internet gold. It made people stop and stare, and it gave him the kind of viral fame you can't buy. It shot him straight to national TV. The Sandwiches performance on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon had Odd Future sprinting around the stage like they just broke out of art school prison. She brought Frank Ocean into the fold, and that track flipped the whole tone for a minute. Smooth, eerie, and offbeat romance in the middle of a sonic war zone. The whole record still carried the same Odd Future fingerprint. Haji Beats, Domo Genesis, Jasper Dolphin, Taco, Mike G, and of course Frank Ocean all made appearances. But this time, it felt more deliberate, more coordinated. The deluxe edition even tossed in 3 bonus tracks and a poster, because nothing says buy this like an offensive rap album and wall art. Critics had opinions. Pitchfork gave it an 8 out of 10, praising the production, but dragging it for being too long. Rolling Stone dropped a 3 out of 5 and called it monotonous. The Guardian was more generous with 4 out of 5, saying it was bold and wild, but maybe a little juvenile. Spin called it a bleakly compelling endurance test, which somehow sounds like a compliment and a warning. Still, Metacritic landed it at 72 out of 100, which is like saying, not bad, but please relax. It didn't matter what critics said though. Goblin sold 45,000 copies its first week and hit number 5 on the Billboard 200. It peaked at number 1 on the independent albums chart and got certified gold by March of 2018. It also hit number 2 on the R&B charts in the United States and climbed into the top 20 in the United Kingdom and top 15 in Canada. The controversy train didn't stop. New Zealand also banned Odd Future from performing in 2014. Critics hammered him about the lyrics. Sarah Quinn from Tegan, and Sarah called it all out publicly. And Tyler responded with Twitter sarcasm, because of course he did. Despite everything, Goblin changed the game. It brought Tyler from the digital underground to national awards. Yonkers got nominated for Best Hip Hop Video, and Tyler won Best New Artist at the MTV Video Music Awards that same year. Whether people liked the album or not, they couldn't ignore him. It influenced a whole wave of alternative hip-hop acts and helped solidify internet-driven music as a serious force. And somehow, through all the noise, Tyler still got better. This was the middle part of a trilogy that started with Bastard and ended with Wolf. It's raw, it's chaotic, and it's tough to defend, but it mattered. Goblin was a loud, messy step forward, and somehow it worked. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Wolf, this one was different right out the gate. Tyler traded in the horrorcore haze and chaos from Bastard and Goblin for something cleaner, smoother, and way more focused. Released on April 2nd, 2013, this was Tyler stepping up with full control, polished studio access, and a narrative that wasn't just there to shock people, but to actually tell a story. That story wrapped around fictional characters like Wolf, Sam, and Selim, all living in this wild summer camp setting called Camp Flog Gnaw. There's a therapist again, Dr. TC, still hanging around from the last 2 albums, but things feel more cinematic this time. Tyler produced nearly everything himself. No surprise there, he still used FL Studio, but this time he had access to legit studios like Chalice in Los Angeles and Treehouse in Atlanta. The upgrade in sound quality is obvious. This wasn't just a collection of tracks, it was planned, layered, and detailed. The album opened with the title track, setting up the story with orchestral touches and jazzy textures. From there, it bounced through emotional detours, sarcastic rants, and even a BMX love song. Domo 23 came first as a single, loud, fast, wrestling-themed chaos. Answer dropped the energy and went heavy, confronting Tyler's absentee dad again. That thread connects all 3 albums in the trilogy. Then there's Colossus, which everyone compared to Eminem's Stan because it's about overzealous fans, and honestly, Yeah, the vibes are uncomfortably close. 18 tracks in total. Frank Ocean showed up multiple times, and Erykah Badu slid in for Tree Home 95 with Coco O, bringing some neo-soul warmth in the middle of everything. Even Nas showed up, kind of, on 48, though he wasn't credited. It's a heavy roster, packed with odd future regulars like Earl, Domo, Haji, Mike G, Jasper, and Taco. It still felt like a group project, but with a director who finally knew exactly what he wanted. The numbers tell you how Tyler's brain was changing. 19.4% of the lyrics focus on introspection, same number as the amount centered around shock and violence. Compare that to Goblin's 36.6% violence rate, and you can see he was slowing down with the slurs and the gore. Critics still took issue with it, but the outrage wasn't as loud as it was with Goblin. Then there's Tamale. It's probably the weirdest song on the album, full of squeaky, bizarre production and lines that feel like satire wrapped in nonsense. And Party isn't over Campfire. Bimmer might be the most ambitious track. 3 parts, 1 song, and a feature from Letitia Sadier from Stereolab. This was Tyler aiming for maximalist art pop chaos, and somehow it works. Barely. Wolf charted hard. It debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200 and sold 89,000 copies its first week. It got certified gold by August of 2018. It hit number 2 on the R&B charts in the United States, number 17 in the United Kingdom, and number 2 in Canada. Critics gave it generally favorable reviews. Pitchfork hit it with an 8 out of 10. Rolling Stone gave it 3.5 out of 5. The Guardian liked it even more, calling it expansive and emotionally rich. Metacritic stacked it at 70 out of 100. Thematically, Wolf closed the trilogy. The story unfolds in layers, with characters clashing and blending together. Wolf Haley, Sam, and Salem all represent different pieces of Tyler's personality. There's grief and lone, where he reflects on losing his grandmother. There's love and rage in IFHY. And in Trash Wang, he lets the Odd Future Squad go off completely, yelling and stomping through noise like it's 2011 again. But even as Tyler matured, controversy didn't exactly leave. Rusty still had that problematic language. Critics, including Glad, pushed back. Some fans defended it by calling it part of the fictional personas. Tyler never really backed down, but he did seem more focused on storytelling than provocation. Then came the Mountain Dew ad situation. Tyler directed it himself in bed, featuring a goat and Odd Future members. People accused it of using racist stereotypes. Pepsi pulled the whole thing after backlash, and Tyler was back in the spotlight for reasons he didn't want. Wolf still contributed to his United Kingdom band. That one lasted from 2015 to 2019 and lumped Wolf in with Bastard and Goblin as promoting violence and homophobia. Tyler called it racist and said he felt like he was being treated like a criminal for being an outspoken black artist. But underneath the headlines, Wolf was a leap forward. It had jazz, funk, storytelling, and melody. It laid the groundwork for what Tyler would do in Flower Boy and Igor. It turned Camp Flog Gnaw into more than just a fake camp. It became a real festival. The album's sound and themes shaped his future, and even with flaws, it's a fan favorite for good reason. It felt like Tyler growing up in real time without pretending to be perfect. Cherry Bomb. This album was like Tyler took everything he had, threw it in a blender, and hit the highest setting. It came out on April 13th, 2015, loud and unapologetic. There's no neat storyline here, like in the Wolf trilogy, just a chaos-fueled ride through punk, jazz, funk, and some seriously distorted beats. If Wolf was Tyler opening up emotionally, Cherry Bomb was him smashing the microphone just to see what would happen. He produced almost the whole thing himself. No surprise, right? He used FL Studio and Logic Pro, but this time he pulled in live instrumentation, pianos, guitars, vibraphones. Actual jazz legend Roy Ayers even shows up on Find Your Wings. Yeah, Tyler was making real arrangements. It's like he found the jazz section of the record store and said, "I'll take everything." Death Camp kicks things off with this raw, punk-inspired energy. Clearly drawing from Nerd Buffalo follows up and throws punches at his critics, even calling out the UK government for that dumb ban that kept him out of the country for 4 years. Pilot and Run are short bursts of funk and soul, but then Find Your Wings totally flips the vibe. It's tender, breezy, and actually uplifting, something you couldn't imagine Tyler doing a few albums back without immediately mocking himself. Then comes Cherry Bomb, the title track, and it's pure distortion. The vocals are buried, the synths are screaming, and it's like he dared listeners to sit through it without flinching. Blow My Load somehow makes things even weirder to tell if it's satire or not, and that's kind of the point. Tyler's still playing with the line between shock and sincerity. Then there's Smuckers, the undisputed highlight. He got Kanye West and Lil Wayne on the same track, and it somehow works without sounding like a messy flex. The production swings between lush strings and hard drums. Wayne comes in swinging, Kanye delivers one of his strongest features in years, and Tyler holds his own. You can hear how far he'd come as a producer. He wasn't just experimenting, he was pulling it off. Cherry Bomb runs 13 tracks long, 15 if you grab the deluxe version. That added Yellow and Special, both of which leaned into a softer, more melodic vibe. The features list was stacked. You had Kali Uchis, Charlie Wilson, Chaz Bundick, Sid, Coco O, Schoolboy Q, and even Cole Alexander from the Black Lips. Tyler was curating his dream team, and it didn't feel random. It felt like him finally owning his spot in music, not just as a rapper, but as a full-blown artist. Lyrically, this wasn't Tyler trying to break headlines anymore. Only about 10% of the album leaned into shock or juvenile humor. That's a massive drop from Goblin, and even Wolf. You could tell he was shifting, maturing, even if he still loved to throw in the occasional middle finger. There was introspection too. Tracks like Fucking Young and Find Your Wings wrestled with love, vulnerability, and identity. Buffalo took on media scrutiny and his UK band head on. It wasn't all subtle, but it had focus. Critics were split. Pitchfork gave it a 6.7 out of 10, praising the ambition, but dragging the mixing. Rolling Stone gave it 3 out of 5, calling it overstuffed. The Guardian did the same. Everyone seemed to agree that the ideas were solid, but the sound could be too chaotic. Still, Metacritic pulled it together with a score of 69 out of 100, which translates roughly to cool, but take a breath. Commercially, it did well. It hit number 4 on the Billboard 200 and sold over 51,000 copies in the first week. It topped the R&B charts in the United States and went gold in 2019. It charted in the top 20 in the United Kingdom and top 10 in Canada. Not bad for something that sounds like a broken speaker on purpose. It wasn't scandal heavy like Tyler's earlier stuff, but the production did raise eyebrows. People complained about how vocals got lost in the mix on tracks like Cherry Bomb. Tyler later admitted that some of it was intentional, leaning into punk aesthetics and blowing out the sound just to stand out. He owned it. Even when it got messy, it was his mess. This album also helped push his fashion line and Can't Flog Gnaw forward. The wild, colorful aesthetic matched his golf wang branding perfectly. He performed tracks from Cherry Bomb at Coachella and Can't Flog Gnaw, then hit the road for a tour that was more focused and polished than anything he'd done before. Cherry Bomb may not have won big awards, but it proved Tyler wasn't going to be boxed in. It's a messy, distorted, ambitious record that's gained more appreciation over time. It paved the way for Flower Boy, which was cleaner and more focused, but it wouldn't have existed without this. Cherry Bomb was the sound of someone testing every limit, and yeah, it was loud, but at least it was honest. Flower Boy, this one hit different. Tyler didn't just tone things down. He opened all the windows, let the light in, and started actually saying what was on his mind without screaming it through distortion. It dropped on July 21st, 2017, and the growth is everywhere. Gone are the shock bars, the slurs, and the abrasive chaos. What's left is vulnerability, identity, melody, and maybe the most polished production Tyler had done up to that point. He produced the entire thing himself, not a single co-producer. He used Logic Pro, analog synths, and live instruments, pianos, strings, guitars, building a sound that's rich, textured, and way more restrained than anything on Cherry Bomb. You can actually hear the vocals this time. It's warm, smooth, and way more intentional. Tracks don't just exist to freak people out, they're built to stick with you. It kicks off with Forward, featuring Rex Orange County. That's right, he brought in a bunch of softer, more melodic collaborators this time. No full Odd Future posse cuts, just a curated guest list that makes sense. Frank Ocean comes through a couple times, Kali Uchis slides into See You Again with ease, and Steve Lacy and Estelle add subtle touches throughout. Even Lil Wayne gets in on the introspection with Droppin' Seeds, and yeah, it's only a minute, but it's a clean verse that doesn't derail the mood. This album's got 14 tracks. No deluxe version, no weird B-sides, just the straight-through experience. It's also got one of Tyler's most famous singles in See You Again. That thing eventually made its way into Spider-Man, into the Spider-Verse, which is wild when you think about where Tyler was lyrically just a few albums ago. Who Dat Boy, on the other hand, is the one moment where he lets loose. It's loud, creepy, and chaotic. Classic Tyler, but it still feels like it belongs on this record. Garden Shed might be the most talked about track. It's subtle, but the lyrics spark discussions about Tyler's sexuality. He doesn't shout it. He doesn't make it a headline. He just weaves it into the narrative like someone trying to say something important without making it a spec. That line, truth is, since a youth kid, thought it was a phase, got people talking, and not in the usual internet pile-on way. It felt real. It felt like Tyler actually letting people see more of who he was without filtering it through satire. The numbers back it up too. Only 0.2% of the lyrics here fall under shock rap. That's almost nothing. Compare that to Goblin's 36.6%, and it's like Tyler finally got tired of provoking people just to prove he could. Instead, he leaned into introspection, which makes up over 15% of the lyrics, plus another 5.7% on mental health. Tracks like Boredom and 911, Mr. Lonely dive deep into feelings of isolation, missed connections, and self-doubt. It's honest without being dramatic. Flower Boy isn't packed with controversy, and that's kind of the point. For once, people weren't focused on what Tyler said that offended them. They were focused on the music. Pitchfork gave it an 8.5 and stamped it as Best New Music. Rolling Stone and The Guardian both gave it 4 out of 5. NME gave it a full 5, calling it a turning point. Metacritic averaged it out to 84, which is basically a universal round of applause. It debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 and sold 74,000 units its first week. It hit number 1 on the R&B charts and eventually went platinum by early 2020. It cracked the top 10 in the United Kingdom and hit number 2 in Canada. Even the people who weren't big on Tyler before started to pay attention. This was the album that made it impossible to write him off. He dropped music videos for Who Dat Boy, 911, See You Again, and Boredom, all directed by him, of course. Visually, everything matched the album's floral aesthetic, which also bled into his Golf Wang line. He performed the record at Camp Flog Gnaw on Coachella, and then took it on the road for the Flower Boy tour, which was just as focused and cohesive as the album itself. Tyler was 24 to 26 while recording this, and you can tell. The album sounds like someone growing up, without losing what made them interesting. There's still humor, weird metaphors, and quirky production choices, but now it's balanced with emotion and restraint. Tracks like November, Glitter, and Enjoy Right Now. Today, don't just show musical growth, they show emotional clarity. Flower Boy didn't just move Tyler forward, it redefined him. It erased the idea that he had to yell to be heard. It made space for queerness in hip-hop without making it a gimmick. And most importantly, it set the stage for everything he would do next. This was the sound of someone finding peace with themselves and finally figuring out how to say what they really feel. Igor. This one came out of nowhere and knocked the air out of the room in under 40 minutes. Tyler dropped it on May 17th, 2019, and honestly, it felt like he'd been preparing for this moment since Bastard. The chaos was gone. The controversy was gone. All that was left was heartbreak, confusion, beauty, and a pastel-colored meltdown in 12 tracks. This wasn't just an album. It was a concept, a breakup wrapped in synths and soul. Tyler played every instrument, arranged every harmony, produced every second. No co-producers. The whole thing is a narrative, following a fictional version of himself, Igor, as he spirals through infatuation, desperation, denial, and whatever's left once you're emotionally bankrupt. And yeah, you're supposed to listen to it in order. If you jump around, you're basically skipping chapters in a love story that ends in emotional eviction. Igor's theme opens with that thick, buzzing synth wall and some vocals from Solange and Lil Uzi Vert that creep in like ghosts. Then Earthquake hits, and suddenly, you're begging someone not to leave you. Playboy Carti mumbles through a verse that somehow works perfect, and Charlie Wilson and Jesse Wilson bury their harmonies deep in the mix. It's messy, vulnerable, catchy, and totally intentional. That's the whole album. Layers on layers of emotional residue, distorted, but still painfully clear. There's no filler. I think dives into the early stages of a crush and brings in Solange again, uncredited, because Tyler apparently likes hiding features like Easter eggs. Puppet slows everything down with a Kanye West feature that sounds like it was recorded mid-side. A Boy is a Gun flips a vintage soul sample into something eerie and detached. New Magic Wand. And what's good are the aggressive flip sides of the record, where obsession boils into something sinister. Gone, gone. Thank You is the emotional collapse. Are we still friends? Is the answer you already knew before you asked. Tyler's pulling from everywhere on this one. The synths are pure Neptune. The strings sound like Quincy Jones. The emotional weight hits like Prince. And the funk grooves owe a huge debt to Outkast. He also throws in some soul cuts, like that sample from Al Green on Are We Still Friends? And one from Ponderosa Twins, plus one on A Boy is a Gun. It's not just influence. He's translating all of it into something that sounds like nobody else. And the lyrics? There's zero shock rap, none, not even a casual provocation. This is a complete 180 from the kid yelling into a microphone on Goblin. It's all introspection and heartbreak. Over 20% of the lyrics dig into self-reflection, 10% lean into mental health, and barely over 1% are bragging. That's wild for a rap album, but it's not really a rap album, is it? Gone is the need to make people mad. Now it's about making them feel seen. Clues are in I Think when he confesses he might be falling in love, and in Puppet, where he admits he's lost control. It's not a coming out, it's a life being lived. Critics lit this one up. Pitchfork gave it an 8.8 and called it Best New Music. The Guardian dropped a full 5 out of 5. NME did too. Metacritic averaged it out at 81, and nobody had anything bad to say beyond, I wish it was longer. It won Best Rap Album at the Grammys. though Tyler wasn't thrilled about it being boxed into a genre he clearly broke out of. But hey, a Grammy is still a Grammy. Commercially, this thing exploded. #1 on the Billboard 200 with over 165,000 units sold in the first week. Platinum by October. #1 in Canada. #4 in the UK. All with 0 major label pop features and a lead single that wasn't even a rap song. He pushed it with visuals too. Music videos for Earthquake, A Boy Is a Gun, and I Think. All directed by Tyler. All drenched in that retro pastel vibe. He wore that blonde Igor wig for the tour, for performances, for everything. It became a symbol, like his heart was just out there flopping around under that weird bob. Live shows were cinematic. The Igor tour had full stage setups, costumes, lighting cues. He performed Earthquake and New Magic Wand at the Grammys in a white wig and zebra print coat, screaming into the wind machine like he was fighting off a breakup in real time. This wasn't just an album, it was a reinvention, a soft reset. The kid who started out screaming about rape and violence made a record about being ghosted, and it became a cultural moment. Igor didn't try to prove anything, it just told the truth. And sometimes, that's all it takes. Call Me If You Get Lost. Tyler ditched the polished soul of his last album and went full mixtape mode here, narrating a luxury diary through the voice of this ultra-dramatic alter ego. DJ Drama? That man did not hold back. He yelled across nearly every track like it was still 2007, giving the whole thing this chaotic Gangsta Grills flair, but somehow it works. The beats swing wildly between boom bap, trap, jazz rap, and R&B, and the transitions are smoother than they have any right to be. Now the production, all handled by Tyler except one co-credit, feels massive. Dude flexes his ear for layering, combining samples with live piano, horns, bass, like it's a full orchestra of flexing. The deluxe version dropped later and added 8 tracks, but Tyler somehow made them feel like they'd always been part of the plan. Nothing feels tacked on. Even the interludes make sense in this loud, lavish travel diary that hops between heartbreak and bragging like it's all part of the same ride. The lyrics jump from shouting about yachts to confessing emotional messes. It's like Tyler handed you his passport and therapy notes in the same packet. Tracks like Massa and Manifesto hit serious notes, diving into identity and the way people pretend to be mad about everything. And no, there's no shock rap in sight. That phase is long gone. Instead, it's vulnerability and bravado, mixed into one long flex. He even cuts out the noise on Wilshire for almost 9 minutes of storytelling, with no hook and no relief, just a slow burn heartbreak monologue, like watching someone spiral in real time. And while the writing gets introspective, over 1/4 of the lyrics dig into his inner life, he still makes time to remind people he's rich and unbothered. Nearly 11% of the whole album is dedicated to bragging, and you feel it in every chorus, every scream from Drama, every reference to private jets and silk scarves. This thing didn't just make noise critically, it cleaned up. Critics gave it across-the-board praise. Pitchfork gave it an 8.4 and threw it into their best new music club. Rolling Stone and The Guardian weren't far behind, each throwing down 4 out of 5. NME maxed out and gave it 5. Metacritic pulled together all the review and landed at an 85, which is no joke. And then there's the fact that it went straight to #1 on the Billboard 200, sold 169,000 album equivalent units in the first week, and went platinum the next year. Yeah, not subtle. Then there's the features. He brought in legends and curveballs, Lil Wayne, Youngboy Never Broke Again, Ty Dolla $ign, Domo Genesis, Pharrell, Vince Staples, and even some uncredited vocals by Frank Ocean and Juliana Barwick. And it wasn't just a feature party. Each verse had a point. Nobody phoned it in. Even Rocky on the deluxe version showed up with actual energy. Tyler clearly picked collaborators like he was curating a museum. Let's talk influence. This whole album is a direct shout to DJ Drama's old mixtape style, but it doesn't feel like a throwback. It feels like a remix of the past. Tyler borrowed elements from Wu-Tang Clan, Outkast, Jay-Z, and A Tribe Called Quest, then shoved it all into a blender of horns, piano keys, and sneering ad-libs. You can hear the influence of Midnight Marauders in the jazz textures and the Stankonia wildness in the way songs crash into each other. Even the suitcase art and fashion rollout leaned into the travel diary theme. It wasn't just music. It became part of Golf LaFleur's whole aesthetic. Nail polish, luggage, the whole 9 yards. And the defense, not the lyrical kind. I mean the critical one. There wasn't much to defend. Most of the heat came from one track, Manifesto, where Tyler pokes at cancel culture. Some loved it, some got mad, then everyone moved on. There were no real controversies, which for someone like Tyler says a lot. No lawsuits, no wild headlines. Just a man yelling into a mic about Europe, lost love, and his ability to fly out whenever he gets bored. Then there's the live element. Tyler took it to Camp Flog Gnaw in 2021 Lollapalooza and kept it rolling on the Call Me If You Get Lost tour through 2022 and 2023. He directed his own music videos, including Lumberjack, What's Your Name?, Corso, and later, Sorry Not Sorry. Watching them feels like stepping into the Tyler cinematic universe. They're moody, pastel-soaked, and packed with details that match the album's vibes. This wasn't just a phase. The legacy here is real. The travelogue format, the use of an alter ego, and the gangsta grill style all made this thing stand out. It didn't just revive mixtape culture. It dragged it into the luxury era, where a rapper can name-drop Swiss villas and get away with it. And it's not just about hits or awards, though it did win Best Rap Album at the 2022 Grammy Awards and got nominated for Album of the Year. It won Favorite Hip Hop Album at the American Music Awards too. Tyler managed to swing from street-level mixtape sounds to orchestral travel diary without crashing the whole thing into the ground. And somehow, he made the mixtape format not only cool again, but cooler than it had ever been. There's no filler, no throwaways, no recycled shock value. Just sharp production, tight features, raw lyrics, and some of the cleanest transitions in his entire catalog. Chromakopia. Tyler drops the mask and puts on another one, literally. This time, it's Saint Chroma, a green-faced specter narrating memories like he's flipping through old photo albums from Hawthorne and Inglewood. But instead of nostalgia, he delivers existential dread with a jazz rap soundtrack. The whole thing is narrated by his mom, Bonita Smith, who comes in like a voiceover from a documentary about growing up, weird, black, and rich in Los Angeles. There's no smooth talk or fake humility, just diary pages coded in synths and soul samples. The production is all Tyler, with some co-work by Vic Weinstein. And it's obvious he didn't come to please anybody. The samples are so deep cut, it's like he raided a vinyl crate in Zambia. Every track feels like it was made with live instruments and unmedicated emotions. There are horns, military-style drums, and these glitchy transitions that feel like someone's kicking the record player mid-song. Noid sounds paranoid, because it is. Darling, I tries to be sweet, then flinches. Sticky brings chaos with verses from Glorilla, Sexy Red, and Lil Wayne, all fighting for attention. The lyrics slice through like they've been waiting to be written for years. Tyler talks about aging, not like it's graceful, but like he found a gray hair and had an identity crisis. Hey Jane is part love story, part baby scare. I Killed You has Childish Gambino jumping in to unpack beauty standards and racial identity, while LaToya Williams floats in the background like smoke. Judge Judy plays like a sketch with a soundtrack, and Thought I Was Dead delivers the album's rawest moment, especially in the alternate version with Playboy Cardi. That one didn't even make streaming. It's tucked away in physical copies like a secret level. The album's got Rain, Tomorrow is Soft, layered with Daniel Caesar's voice and a kind of creeping dread about change. Balloon feels manic, bouncing around, while Doechi chimes in like she's narrating a breakdown. Take Your Mask Off lays it all out. It's not subtle. It's like Tyler's finally yelling, yes, it's me under there, and no, I don't want to explain. Even Like Him stares down the old wound of his father. With Lola Young playing therapist, it doesn't resolve anything, but it lets the questions hang long enough to hurt. Tyler's bragging is lower this time. Only about 8% of the lyrics go there, but when it shows up, it hits hard. Still, the album's mostly introspection and social commentary, clocking in at about 30%. Between those two, it's moody without being boring, experimental without sounding like a dare. Saint Chroma, the opener, introduces everything with Daniel Caesar and Bonita Smith setting the tone. It's not a hero's journey. It's a guy trying to understand himself through layers of noise and melody. Then the drama kicks in, mostly around one lyric. Sticky includes a line where Tyler shrugs off pronouns and says what he wants. The internet, of course, had opinion. Some people clapped, others got mad. Tyler, silent. No statement, no tweet, just the track right there in your face. No shock rap, no slurs, none of that early career mess. He's grown, and the controversy's more about who he is now than what he used to say. Critics were into it. Pitchfork gave it an 8.2. NME and The Guardian each gave it 4 out of 5. Metacritic rolled up all the takes and landed at 83. Billboard called it one of the most revealing albums of the year. The fans showed up too. The album dropped on a random Monday, broke a Spotify record, and still landed at #1 on the Billboard 200. 299,000 units in just 4 days. That's the 6th biggest debut of the year. Noid hit the top 10. Sticky and Saint Chroma charted too. He kept the release weird. Instead of press tours, he had Chromakopia trucks roll into cities with QR codes, a voicemail line. Physical copies came with posters and alternate versions. The CD even had a bonus track called Mother that never hit streaming. You either bought it or you didn't hear it. There's no deluxe edition. Just one body of work dropped like a bomb. Live, he premiered the whole thing at Intuit Dome, then hit Camp Flog Gnaw, then announced a world tour, North America, Asia, Europe. He's taking St. Chroma global. The videos, all directed by Tyler, match the vibe. Color palettes switching mid-frame. Ayo Edebiri starring in Noid as an unhinged fan, and everything styled like a fashion shoot gone sad. The theme stuck with people. It's not just music, it's Tyler showing how ugly and complicated growing up really is, especially when you're famous. He doesn't want to be a father, but he's scared of becoming his dad. He wants to be left alone, but still makes the most personal record of his career. Chromakopia isn't smooth, but that's the point. It reflects back everything loud, raw, and unfiltered, like he's finally ready to be seen, even if it makes him uncomfortable. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.